Um, I'll share my screen and then let's do some official introductions and get things started. We've actually put quite a lot um into this. There's a lot packed in, as it were. So you will also get if you want a copy of the slide deck, let us know. So this is supposed to be a master class. So it's not in that sense sort of a big presentation. We are presenting, but please jump in, interrupt, put questions in the chat box or just put yourself on mute and talk. It'd be great. So just sort of introducing who we are. Um, uh, um, Kendra, probably you already know everybody, and everybody already knows Kendra. She's the director based in Grand Rapids for U.S. Commercial Service based in Michigan. And I'm going to let Kendra speak, also introduce the services and all the sort of helping hand of the U.S. Commercial Service in Michigan. A very, very, very active team there. So really a big resource that you should all be latching on to. My colleague Ava is the business development manager. She's based just north of you, just actually on the border with Canada, and is here to help me in particular because she has a lot of knowledge about the use of video and really profiling buyer personas and things like that. So I've got her to talk a little bit about those subjects. And myself, my name is Susanna, and I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. IBT Online is we're a digital marketing agency, basically. What do we do? We build websites, we build e-commerce, we do a lot of e-commerce. We do digital marketing in all its forms, from the light little fairy dust of organic SEO to deep, scary social listening, sort of all and everything in between. And we're really known, I think, for two aspects of our business. The first is that we focus on what I would call mid-cap companies. So, Apple, they don't need us, but we believe we have a real value add for mid-cap companies. And we're also really known for our ability to pull companies internationally, to help them in international markets. We have sort of international in our DNA, as it were. We have offices in Germany, in France, in South America, in China, and we're headquartered in Florida. But we have other offices in the States as well, in Massachusetts and Canada. Anyway, we're known for that international aspect, for that. So there we go. So we're called a full stack online marketing company, digital marketing company, and that's sort of what we do here. And we've helped a lot of companies, particularly with trade shows. And so one of the things we thought we would do is join up with Kendra and talk about trade shows and how they work and how you can really get the most out of them. And we'll talk a little bit more about ROI, in a moment, for that. We've also produced something called these online global programs, which are programs designed to help that whole passage. It's a well-trodden path, let's put it this way, of how to make your websites, how to make your digital marketing resonate with an international audience in different markets, pretty well anywhere in the world. And we have that we have these agreed programs in a lot of the US states, including Michigan. We have a dedicated page on our website as well for Michigan companies that explains more about what we do and how we do it. So I'm very transparent about those things. Today's agenda, I was going to ask Kendra to start, really to give us an overview of the U.S. Commercial Service in Michigan, how Kendra and her team can help, and some of those aspects and some of the experience, and even a little success story to share with you. After that, I'm going to be talking a little bit about trade shows, why we like them, what is an ROI for a trade show, how you can judge the ROI, and some of the a quick, easy task on when you're looking at the profitability of trade shows. Then some strategic part of preparation that you might need before the trade show, during the trade show, and then after the trade show, when supposedly the real work starts. Very tiring stuff after the trade show, and a little takeaway on distributors as well. and how they can interact on trade shows. At the end, some takeaways, some questions. But as I said, we're very aware that you're all running a business. Or going to a Christmas party. We're all very aware that you're busy. Take the time, interrupt, it's a small group. So please take advantage of that. Kendra, please.
Thanks, Susanna. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with our companies today. As most of you know, I've had the pleasure of working with most of you, or at least have had my counterparts in the east side of the state work with you. So it's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us before the Christmas crunch and holiday crunch, and really be strategic about what you're wanting to accomplish for 2025. So I'm just going to give a few pointers for how the U.S. Commercial Service can help you with creating a digital strategy, go over some main top line things, and then let Susanna get into some more of the specifics. But I'm not sure if I can, we'll go to the next slide. I'm not sure if yeah. So for those of you who aren't aware, the U.S. Commercial Service is part of the federal government, part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We have a global network that ranges into 80 countries internationally at the U.S. embassies and consulates. Here in Michigan, we have 3 offices, one on Grand Rapids, where I'm located. Then we have an office in Techtown in Detroit, and also East Michigan and Oakland County area. Our statewide impact is that we've worked with over 1,400 companies in the last couple of years, received more than 10,000 inquiries in general. But at the end of the day, our goal is to try to help you identify targeted business solutions so that you can be successful in an international market. And part of that could be just general trade counseling, or it could be understanding how to find a partner in a foreign market. But for purposes of today, we're going to talk about using your website and creating your online presence so that you can find international buyers. Next slide. So 3 basics that we think is important for every company to consider when they're looking to strengthen their online presence is 1, just identifying your digital objectives and understanding what the search engine optimization process looks like and finding resources to help you get there. And then just making sure that you're being proactive in keeping your international website an international presence, whether that's your website or social media in general. Digital objectives can be unique to every company, just like your usual business objectives are, but I think we all want to make money, right? So how do we do that? The more you can be welcoming to international buyers, the more likely you're going to be able to grow your revenue. But we think it's important to be concrete and define what it is that you want to achieve. Is it just making your website, to protect your brand internationally, to compete against international competitors? Or are you looking to actually create an e-commerce platform where people can actually purchase items from your website? For most of the companies that we work with, it is really just creating an online presence where they can be found and they can connect with other global buyers. But at the end of the day, we want you to define what your objectives are so that you can make decisions going forward using data-driven decisions. So the search engine optimization, I think most of us are pretty familiar with that now, but some of the things that you need to consider when creating your digital strategy or trying to improve your digital strategy is just kind of, again, a refresher. I'm sure many of you know this more than I do, but our clients, you need to make sure that you have online presence that is up to date. If you have old pictures from the 1900s, as my kids like to say, you're not going to be getting the hits that you would if you're updating it on a monthly basis. Are you integrating your social media presence with your website? So if you have a YouTube channel, or if you have, if you're working on LinkedIn even, are those integrations seamless? That's important to keep you up high on the search engine pages. And then one thing to start would be to just take a look at your analytics and figure out who's already coming into your site naturally and organically, and how can you do that, replicate that in other markets to make that better for you. Are you using specific social media outlets that are specific to foreign countries? So are you on the places where your buyers are? Because different countries use WeChat, or they might use Weibo or something different. So don't just assume that Google or LinkedIn is going to get you there. Next slide. And Susanna, if you want to interrupt me, feel free at any time.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So just quickly, because I want to get to the main show, IBT has the good content for you. But just quickly, we encourage you to think strategically by creating an international checklist. Some of the best practices that we've seen our customers and clients use are making sure that you're using simple pictures and simple words so that it's easy for international buyers to understand. If you need to go into more product-specific details, we'd encourage you to put that either at the bottom of your page or a different page, but for your main landing page, keep it clean and simple. Again, we talked about using links to social media. Any of those kind of links are just going to help you gain traction for your website. Make sure that your site is open to it and kind of announcing that you are open to international business, whether that is using like a Google Translate link or using flags with translated websites. Sometimes it might just be even having information saying that you are aware of certain needs of international orders. So what would an international order look like? Any kind of content like that is going to make the international buyers, once they find you, know that they feel comfortable that you're going to be able to help them. And then IBT can tell you a little bit more about what are some of the differences between having just a landing page or using like a localized website. So in Canada.ca or France.fr, what are some of the advantages of localizing that content? Of course, being with the US government, we want you to promote yourself as made in the USA. It's still a strong brand. We have a reputation for making quality products. So if you are made in the USA, proudly advertise that. Some other considerations that you might want to consider are making sure that if you have product-specific details, measurements, make sure you're offering those in metric, because not everybody likes our US and British inches and all that stuff. So if you make it easy for the buyers to understand your products and your sizes, it'll be a lot easier for them to make that decision to go ahead and work with you as a supplier. And other best practices that we encourage you to use are to avoid using abbreviations. So don't just say MI for Michigan, spell it out, because they don't know what MI is. Format your phone numbers in an international format. Again, that's just another way for you're letting your buyers know that you're open to them and that they can contact you. If you list a 800 number, make sure you have a line for international inquiries, because they can't use that 800 number. And in general, again, these are generalities, but in general, foreigners like to work on a more relational basis. They're not as transactional as Americans can be. So they want to have a person that they can contact. They don't want to just send an email to an info box. So if you're able to do that, to provide some context, maybe pictures, to kind of encourage the beginning of that relationship, we encourage that as well. Next slide. So as you've developed some of these strategies and you want to think about how to go forward and you're looking for resources, we encourage you to, after you've had your objectives, one of the key ways in making sure you're making progress is to track those key performance indicators. And that might be starting off as just something simple as identifying who are uniquely visitors to your site. And as you get better, or as you work with your webmaster or other service providers, you can spend more time focusing on how long are people on your site? What does a conversion look like for you? Does it mean they're going to a shopping cart, or does it mean that you're getting an inquiry from them after they've been on your site for a long time? The U.S. Commercial Service has some resources to help you with this. We have something called the Website Globalization Review, which is similar to the report that you're going to be getting this week, but it does have some added insights and some feedback from some of our offices. It's a very price-friendly report. I think it's like $100. It might be $150 now, but for small companies. So I'd encourage you to consider that as an option. Also, we have a lot of, I can send this presentation to you so you'll have the links too, but our e-commerce resource library has, the guide has pulled out the parts of the digital strategy from each of our country commercial guides. So if you want to go to the resource guide, it has over 140 countries, I believe, of how to do business online in Asia, how to do business online in, Europe or by country. So it's a good resource, and I'd encourage you to look at that. And then our Frontline Library is another resource that our e-commerce strategies team has pulled together that goes over some, I think they do some projections, they do some local resources, they have blogs and kind of how-to videos. So it's another good place to get started. Then finally, our business service provider list is people like IBT who have listed themselves and their specialties. So if you need to know more about creating great graphics, or if you want to have someone overhaul your website, you can look to the business service provider directory to get the expertise that you need. Because one of the next steps might be creating an online shopping cart, and that's not something that the government can help you with. But in general, I'd encourage you to reach out to your trade specialist, because even if we're not an expert on some of these topics, we can help you identify resources to help you get to the next level and help you identify things that you might need to consider when you're creating your website, such as compliance issues with data privacy. So I'd encourage you to reach out to your trade specialist, and just the more you know, the more you can grow. I'll give a quick example of how we helped a company in Lexington. My colleague, Sarah Marino, has worked with this client for several years, helping them to grow their exports. When they asked her to help them with their digital strategies, she was able to do a website globalization report for them. Some of the changes that they decided to make to their website based on that report, again, they added Made in the USA with the logo. They, in the top, you can't quite see it, but they have links to their social media. Their website's actually kind of cool. You can see their cows kind of going. They're not selling cows, but they're selling like milking equipment or something. But their video is cool. And then they list again the phone numbers and the websites, international phone calls, in a way that makes it friendly for international buyers. Because of the assistance that they received from Sarah, they were able to increase their sales and also increase their rankings on their search engine sites. And then finally, here's just the contact information for all of our team here in Michigan. Feel free to reach out to any of us, or if you don't know which person would be the right contact for you, happy to work with you to get you in the right hands. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing what Susanna has to say, because I know she's got a lot more meat to give you on how to increase your strategies.
Angela, thank you very much. And just and highlighting, I think Michigan's very lucky. They have 6 people in the state. So it's a big, very experienced team for U.S. commercial service. It's great.
Thank you.
So, right. So let's talk about. So we're, the internet's so big. There's so much to talk about. So we thought we'd focus on one thing. What we asked, one of the things that we're getting a lot of requests about at the moment from our clients is about trade shows, and we're sort of running quite a lot of marketing, digital marketing, and help for them about trade shows. And trade shows definitely back. All those crowded people, but it's interesting to know. We have to remember why we actually like trade shows from a digital marketing point of view. From the point of view of an internet company, why do we like trade shows? Basically, we like trade shows because they really accelerate. They pump up those moments that you need in a buyer's journey to pull them along, so that in the space of 3-4 days you could have a potential client going from awareness right to purchase. Normally that sales cycle could take months, some companies even years. With trade show, you really condense it down. So you need these events, as marketeers would call them, in order to drive the buyer's journey along the road, and they're incredibly effective. Even if you're an online company like us, we love trade shows. They're very vibrant. So I'm very happy to see them back and really flourishing. However, they're quite different these days. They've really changed since, I guess, the pandemic, and there's certain things that are here to stay. One of the big features that you'll find in trade shows today is that there's a lot more. They're not sort of the only online ones kind of petered out, but there's a lot more integration of tech in a trade show these days. You're expected to have good videos on your booths. You're expected to have your QR code, and there'll be online forums. There'll be discussion groups. There'll be breakouts, live streams, all kinds of things happening in good trade shows today. So that whole the visual side of trade shows has definitely increased. The tech side of trade shows has increased. I've listed some of the main trends that we're seeing at the moment in trade shows, and you know, B2B and so on. So there's more information on this slide. Just to say, we have worked in the past, and where we're getting a lot of these things, we've worked in the past quite a lot with Frankfurter Messe, Hannover Messe, the two big German groups in particular, and that's where we get a lot of this, and as well as from Statista that we're talking about today. So one of the first things, Kenda already mentioned this sort of, you know, this setting your goals. And one of the first things we would recommend in our trade show programs is defining your goals of the trade show. And they tend to split between generating sales, like bottom line stuff. I want checks written out, and I want to have more brand awareness. So they tend to split between those two. Those are the two drivers of why you go to a trade show. And you really have to figure out the balance between them for each trade show and what they mean, because how you measure them will determine your success or not for what you're doing on this trade show. So if it's a really want to do brand awareness, you're going to have a very different program, a different strategy than if it's like, I've got to get sales in the door. So that's the very first thing to do. And that brings us straight into this question of ROI. Once you set your goals, you need to set your ROI. And trade shows are interesting because it's an event. Therefore, you can set the target ROI and then figure backwards what you need to do to make that investment, to make that return on investment. And again, the difference between I want sales versus I want brand awareness will tip that return on investment. But even if it's like things like I want brand awareness, you can monetize it to figure out whether that return has been useful or not. So everything has a dollar value when you're looking at return on investment, when you're looking at those objectives. That's the first thing. So in terms of return on investment, obviously it's costs over benefits. So the costs, your booth, your travel, your printing, and shipping, but all those hidden costs go in there as well. Not just sort of the flights and all that, but the time that it takes in management, hours, the opportunity cost. If you're doing this, you're not doing that. All those things go into the cost. Boost the cost side as much as you can. Throw everything in there. Make sure you're not missing something essential. As a general rule of thumb, if you talk to people like Hannover Messe, they'll tell you as a general rule of thumb, it's booth cost times 3. And they mean total normal booth cost. They don't mean something that's being helped by an economic development agency or subsidized by the states. They mean, here's your booth cost, it's $20,000 or whatever. More or less times 3 is going to be your cost as a basic sort of rule of thumb for a normal trade show. We would expect to have an ROI of 5 times the cost. That would make an okay ROI. More than 5 is really good. But in our programs, we're looking at 5 times ROI on your trade show. And how you then measure that is going to be your KPIs, your key performance indicators. And that's going to be 2 things. It's going to be number of sales generated, and then this monetization of the brand awareness. So that's how you're working out your ROI. And again, if you want to dive in deeper, if this was too fast, then tell me to slow down. Or anyway, you've got the slide deck and you can work it out as well. So there are 3 stages to the program. Once you've figured out those objectives, once you've figured out your projected ROI, there are 3 stages. The first stage, probably the most important in many ways, is before you go. And we generally start that 8 to 10 weeks before the trade show. And the more you can get done before the trade show, the better the return will be. Remember that a lot of what you're doing before the trade show is also post-event things. You're organizing your email shots post-event before the event happens. Because when you come back, you're exhausted. You've got stacks of cards and you know, how to remember everything. So organize before is really important. And there are 5 basic things that we'll be looking at in terms of the organization. And these will come back again and again in our presentation. One is the effect on your website. And as a sort of really a sub feature of that is a dedicated landing page, which we would think is part of that. And Kendra did mention these kind of landing pages. A third feature, which will come again and again throughout the whole process, is your social media profiles and what you're doing on social media. A subset of that, but a really important one that's worth highlighting is videos. I'm going to ask Ava to talk about that in particular. And then 5 is really your direct outreach, so your email campaigns. Just as a little sort of pro tip, it's amazing how you go on these expensive trade shows and then you forget to tell anybody in your company you're going. So please remember to tell people inside your company, not just within your department, but in the other departments. You'd be amazed how much, it's like, oh, well, you're going to wherever, you must look up so-and-so. Oh, yeah, our good clients there, so on. So create the buzz inside the company, not just outside the company. Get colleagues to buy in, create the buzz everywhere. Okay. So let's dive into some of these aspects here. So again, setting your targets for that and who are your targets within the trade show. You will have, anyway, a database of existing clients and contacts, and those should be organized, presumably in your CRM, I'm hoping. You need to then prioritize those. What are the ones you absolutely have to meet? Who is the existing? Who's your best prospects and so on? Way before the event, you're linking, you're connecting on LinkedIn. 8 weeks before the event, you're connecting. And you're sending a quick note to everybody saying, hi, I'm going to the same trade show as you. I think we're going to be there. Let's meet up. And then you're starting to prepare also content, which is quality problem solving content for that. And sort of a bit of a top tip as well. Remember that people like Hunter, the big trade show organizers and even like U.S. Commercial Service as well have abilities within the trade show to reach out to all the database within the trade show and also have, or they can organize business to business matchmaking meetings. And I think can testify and what's it called? Gold key service that U.S. Commercial Service does. Those are worth looking at as well. They're pretty good return on investment for that. Another little point I just want to mention here, especially when you're looking at that target side, is just to remember that buyer persona is a person. It's not a company. So you're reaching out to people, individuals, not companies. And this is important when you're starting to create content and reach out and emails and landing page. Who are you actually targeting? It's not a company, it's a person. It's the person who signs the deal. That's your buyer persona. The person who writes the check, who signs the contract. That's your buyer persona. Really? Ava. Well, I take a sip of water. What is a buyer persona? And you've got about 30 seconds. No, just kidding.
Fantastic. That's a great time. So a buyer persona is a fictional representation of the person, the prospect that you are trying to sell to. And, everyone here is a sophisticated company. You're not new to the exporting game and to thinking about your international prospect. But we're just going to highlight that once again, your domestic buyer persona is going to be very different to your international buyer persona. And you have to be able to speak and communicate and adhere to their expectations. So so we wanted to highlight a little bit about why it's important to create assets, digital assets that are are a better way to communicate your brand, your message, your value to your international buyer persona. So you can think about questions such as, are there multiple buyer personas in this particular market? How does my US versus Mexico buyer persona find me? interact with me. L'Oréal is a really interesting example of a company that does a lot of work to craft their message to their unique buyer persona, international buyer persona, according to the market. So as you all know, Google is not just one Google, it's 150 plus Googles. So they create a localized website for each one of their markets so that they can tailor their brand image to the specific market that they're looking at. So L'Oreal.com in the USA market, it features women at the top of the building. It's kind of female empowered. It's looking like they're business savvy, they're chic. They're in separate spaces. Some are alone, some are talking, etc. And then that's what who they're trying to speak to in L'Oreal USA. And then if we change and go to L'Oreal Mexico, for example, it's a much more familiar vibe. It's a much more, I mean, they're still at the top of the building. There's a view, a skyscraper, but it's a gathering around a computer, and it's much more familiar and less austere, I would say. So this is another interesting example of how L'Oréal do it. And then one third example that we like to highlight is L'Oréal Canada. And Canada, as I'm currently in Canada today, Canada, its international cities, Toronto, Montreal, etc., are very, very immigrant friendly, very young professionals, and quite edgy. So this is a totally different look than what they have for USA, for Mexico. And it's a big example. L'Oréal is a massive company. Of course, they've got lots of money that they can throw at the problem, but it's a really interesting point to say, look at how they're crafting their message to their international buyer personas. And you as a company have a responsibility, if you want to show your commitment to the market, to demonstrate your value, to speak to the buyer persona that's in your market.
Thank you. That was a quick whiz through buyer personas, and great. So, we just want to sort of highlight how important it is to have those web assets as you move into your international markets, as you're moving into a trade show. So as Kendra was saying, make sure it's up to date. Make sure it's mobile friendly. There's like a top list of a key. Make sure it's fit for purpose as well. It really is the best sales tool you can have at your trade show. It's the best sales tool, the single most important sales tool you can give a distributor as well in your local market partners, without a doubt. Landing pages, anatomy of a good landing page. Now, this actually comes from a great Michigan company that we work with called Brunswick, and they Brunswick Bowling. They make great bowling. They do lots of things in the bowling world, and they go to a lot of trade shows, and so we design some and work with them to help their trade show aspects. And a landing page is a separate page with a separate URL on your website dedicated to this trade show, the trade show you're going to. It will, excuse me, it will change over time. It will start off by saying things like, "Hi, I'm going to this trade show. Are you coming too?" Right to the end. Then it's got your booth number. Then it changes rapidly over the sort of 12 weeks before, 10 weeks before, during, and after. And some companies like even keep the landing page from one year to the next because it's such an important trade show. This is the place where you're going to direct people to go to when they want to find out anything about you at that trade show. So where's your booth? Here. Here's the link to find my booth. Here's the link to find a meeting with me. Here's the link to find out about me. Here's a link to find out everything about us at this trade show. That is the dedicated landing page. So, a couple of obvious things. Make it really easy to read, really easy to contact as well. So that is what a landing page is, and they are really important parts of your strategy, as we'll see. And again, having that structured social media approach, again, setting your sites well before the trade show and saying, and then you start building calendars, you start saying, okay, what are we talking about in week one? What are we talking about right up until the trade show? So that you're really funneling in throughout, and you have a designed and sequential, well thought out, well organized approach to the trade show. Pettibone, another great Michigan company. They're in the UP. We work with them a lot and have been doing so for years on their trade shows. And they do, yeah, they have these lifting machines and so on. So they, that's their whole social media approach on that. And that structure comes by building what's called a content calendar, so that at the beginning and 10 weeks before the event, you're building out the calendar of what you're actually going to be saying. You don't have to detail it too much, but at least you're saying, as we go closer and closer, we get more and more interactive, we get a more and more direct, and then you're even saying, okay, what are we actually saying during the trade show for that? And the content calendar about 6 weeks before the actual event. I'm going to let Ava talk about the videos directly a little bit later. But what I would say is that videos are now within the scope of any small, medium sized company. You've got an iPhone, you can produce good video and good imagery, good enough at any rate that you can send it to people like Ava, and then she can edit it. And put it on your website, and it has an enormous impact. For anyone doing international work, remember, an image is 1,000 words. Really, really important to have video on your website because people understand it better. You don't even have to have the words, you can have subtitles. It's fantastic. It's very, very economic way of passing a message. And in most markets, Latin America, certainly, Southeast Asia, yes, they're much more visually orientated than the US market. They want to see the people, the faces, they want to see the image, they don't want to read it. I'll let Ava talk about that because I'm conscious of time. So during the event then, what have you got? You've got your bespoke landing page, which now you're going to transform into a place where you're really celebrating what you're doing in the trade show. You're celebrating, here's our booth number, we're arriving, we're having a cocktail party, we're going to another party, whatever it is you're doing at the trade show, you're celebrating that and you're posting it as well. And you're posting it on social media, you're posting your videos and throughout your network. And during the trade show, you really want to focus on the people in that area. So you can geolocate everything. And that's a good way of keeping costs down. Geolocate all of your social media to, say, 20 miles around your booths. And that way, or whatever, how many miles it is around your booth, to say, are you here? If you're here, I want to meet you. So really focusing in and like a laser focus on the actual trade show. And you can make it actually pretty friendly. You can make it pretty almost casual. This is me arriving at the airport. This is me losing my luggage. This is me setting up my booth. And interact more and more with people. And that interaction will help that network grow and be sort of as a reverberating within the trade show space. Especially if there's any kind of ability to be on a panel, to join in a discussion, to do a display of products. They'll make sure that is well advertised, especially on your social media. I put a little pro tip as well. You need 2 or even 3 people per show. You can't turn up alone. It's just too much. And if you're 2 or 3 people, make sure they're extroverts and go to every single party, because that's where you network. So that's where a lot of that networking happens. Again, this is sort of just diving more into the social media side, about producing this content, producing it yourself. And very often what we're doing with our clients is that they're sending us stuff while they're at the trade show, and we can edit it, we can adapt it a little bit, give it a bit more fizz, post it for them on their social media, make sure it's reverberating correctly, and get the feedback right in. So that if they've got a product demonstration, or if they're saying we're going to have a talk with our CEO or something like that, we make sure that it is well advertised within the entire trade show, and they're getting top views for that. It's important as well to sort of make sure that you are showing the credibility that you have, and again, that comes back to the brand awareness side. All that content that you created is not lost, by the way. It's important to keep it it becomes valuable resource to reuse later. Talk about that. I'm not going to go into booths that much. If anyone wants to talk about booths in particular, you've got a great person. I think she's on this call still, Christine Ellis Fassett, and things like that. That's what they do. So a great Michigan company that does international booths. So you can even work with a Michigan company in international trade shows. But I just did want to point out one thing, is that you can, that landing page, you can incorporate it into your booths as well. And here's a little reminder of the importance of QR codes for a lot of countries. Now, America, we don't use QR codes that much. Starting to see them more, but you know, a lot of countries, people don't, they'll look at your booth, they'll see you're a little bit busy, and maybe they don't want to come in right away. They'll just zap the QR code, check you out, check out the landing page, check out the company, check out the website, and if they're, and then they'll come back. But they want to check it out first, and that's where a QR code is so interesting and so good. This is
And then
they're
you
not
can
in
track
Michigan.
all those people who visited you, right? Even if
Yep.
they didn't come back, you've got their digital information
Yep.
to follow up with later.
Absolutely. 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 And Amsoil, I don't know if you know, they're a Wisconsin company that we work with. Ava, talk to us about videos.
Yes. Just like Susanna was saying about the marketing prior, during, and post, it's the same with the video marketing strategy. Video marketing is really important at every single stage of your preparation, and there's different types of videos that you can make for those different stages. So video marketing is a fantastic, really quick way, efficient way to demonstrate your value, your brand, in a visual way. And I mean, the evidence is there. People want to watch videos more than they want to read. So don't forget about video marketing. Video marketing, it helps you boost your engagement, boost your conversions. It really does help with your brand visibility. So we have a little construction here on the next slide, which is about the types of videos that you can think about before, during, and afterwards. So these are the must-have videos, at least when you're preparing for the show. These are the things that you should absolutely have on hand. So you think about, number one, having a mission vision video, one that at hand you can, for example, put in the virtual sponsor room or the virtual booth that you have. Client testimonials, have a few of those because those can also play on the background. For example, some companies of ours set up a screen that is just playing in the background, and it can have, like, make sure that you include subtitles so that if there is a passerby who's walking by your booth, he can stop for a second, listen to one of your clients talk about how fantastic your products are. And then the third one that we always recommend, so these are just the 3 must-haves, is the action brand video. So super big, and this is your most beautiful, like, it doesn't even have to have any words. It doesn't have to have audio, etc., or music. It just can play like continuously. You can swap it out with the client testimonial, for example. So you can have like a rotating video that shows different things, making sure that your booth looks really engaging, whether that is virtual or whether that is in person. All of these videos really, really do apply. So making sure that you're creating videos that are there to assist you, it does happen in the preparation stages before you go, because we can't make these overnight. Next slide. This is just another quick highlight tour of the power of video, even if you don't have a huge production company. So this is one of our clients, Mountain State Oilseeds. They had a drone, but all of it is done, without a big marketing team. They just had a small drone that they took over their field, and they were able to capture some beautiful footage that they then want to put it at their booth. And so it's kind of a nice storytelling of the brand. Having live videos can really serve as a magnet at the event. as well as a valuable piece of content for continued lead nurturing. So once again, there's a lot of power of video, even if you don't have lots of in-house resources to create them. There's so much you can do with an iPhone. Go around the production floor, for example, or your shop and take lots of iPhone videos, put them in a little collection, a little montage, and put them at your booth in your virtual room space or in the physical one.
I wanted to add, Ava, this one that we're playing now, OEM Fabricators, a fantastic Michigan company. And this was a video that we created from bits and pieces that the head of sales went around and took. And it's incredibly powerful. There's almost no voice on it. They have that playing in the background, and they have it playing in the background of their trade shows. Very, very powerful videos you can see from that. And again, these kind of things that you can do, a tour of your booth, Q&A, presentate, all those things. If you do it just with your iPhone while you're at the, it's not like I'm selling Apple products here, but if you do it by your phone while you're at the trade show, again, we can even process it the day and put it back out. And that's what we're looking at and doing for our clients on the trade show side. I'm gonna go next slide. Where's the next slide? There we go. So that's that during the event, it's very frenetic. You don't sleep much, so you come back, you're exhausted, and you've got all this stuff to do. That's why it's so important to have prepared a lot of this in advance, particularly with regards segmenting your CRM and the template emails that you will look. So basically, there's really 3 parts that we would say happen after the event. The first is really harnessing your database, your CRM, and prioritizing that, looking back at the priorities and that segmentation that you did in the beginning 8-10 weeks ago when you were looking at, who are my prospects, who are the key people I have to meet, who are my existing clients, who are my distributors, who are my in-market partners, who do I want to meet there and which kind. And then now you're looking at sort of, okay, now how did that line up and who can I add to those priority lists? The next one, again, prepared in advance, your email marketing that goes out. And that again can be, it's top and tailed now, but you've prepared the bulk of it already in advance. And then it's looking at leveraging all that stuff, all that content that you prepared for the last 10 weeks. So looking at your CRM, it's important to segment it and say, okay, these are the hot leads. These are the people I met. They needed an email the day I get back. I should be sending them things during the trade show if possible. So they're really to be followed up ones. But then there's other clients who you say, well, these are sort of more longer term back boiler thing. They're going to be slower. All this is to produce what are called MQLs and SQLs, market qualified leads, sales qualified leads. And you nurture them in different ways according to various sort of flywheels or funnels that you're looking at. So, and it's really understanding where that buyer persona is along that journey. Are they still in that very early awareness stage when they're thinking, would I have a problem? What do I do with this problem? Or are they looking at you versus a competitor? And that's different. You're going to send them different things according to where they are on that journey. And then, sharing content from that trade show, it makes you the thought leader of the trade show. It allows you to have more traction within it. So that bespoke marketing, email marketing strategy, as I talked about earlier, the first one is obviously a big thank you. Hi, great meeting we had. Here's our next steps. If they're not replying about the next steps, okay, let's talk about some of the challenges we both see. You mentioned you had this as a challenge and so on. And then you can have also these new client emails, a whole new funnel of long-term nurturing. I wish I had time to talk to you about the advantages that you can bring in with AI at this point. There are some, there are pros and cons to AI, but this part, the productivity gain is huge from AI on this. Your content, It's like rinse, lather, repeat. Just do it again. And you put a video. Now we're going to change the video, make it a clip. We're going to change the video, put it on LinkedIn, change it, put it on Instagram, whatever platform is correct. No content is lost. So it's remembering the content, putting it out there, changing it a little bit, putting on a different platform, adding subtitles for a different language, and reusing it again, so that the content becomes really well leveraged, and really demonstrating the thought leadership of your company. Takeaway. Next steps. This is Ava's favorite slide, actually. It's really just to say, where are we? We're a digital marketing company, so when we see sales, is that the online presence is now absolutely essential. It is the foremost part of it. People don't want to be called out of the blue anymore. They want to check out your website before they talk to you. They'll check you out on LinkedIn before they accept a call. They'll all of that. So it's really, and you always have to be respectful of your buyer persona. You have to meet them on the platform where they are. Just because you're on, I don't know, Facebook, they don't like Facebook, so they're not on Facebook. So you have to see where are they? Where are my clients? Where are my prospective clients in each market, in my US market, in my, in my international markets? And that's where I have to go. I can't expect them to come to me. I have to go to them each time. So that very much customer-centric aspect. Some digital must-haves. A couple of just basics. Mobile enablement. Good imagery. Easy to navigate. Friendly. Easy to contact. Good load speeds. All those things. We will be sending you these SEO reports. You've all got great websites. Nobody's don't have a website. You've all got great websites, very interesting websites, all of you. And we're just giving you constructive thoughts for that. So if you want to have more discussion, we're happy to have that. But just some constructive additions that we as digital marketeers see from looking at your website. Some easy wins internationally, and Kendra mentioned some of these. Your URL is really important. Don't give it to your distributor. So if you've got a distributor in Japan who says, "Oh, I'll do a Japanese website for you, no problem at all," and suddenly you see, I don't know, boride abrasives.jp, and you go, so what? How does he own that? No, don't give him those things. You need to keep your URLs. They're valuable real estate.
So true. We've seen some companies where they had to end a relationship with a distributor, and then they have to buy that out. It's very problematic. That's a good point.
Yeah. Kendra already mentioned, showcase your international expertise. Made in Michigan, sold worldwide. It's as simple as that. Get in touch has to be really easy. Kendra already mentioned, put the one, +1, and then the digit, 1-800 numbers hardly ever work outside the USA. People don't like telephones anyway. Most places, they'll WhatsApp you, they'll send a LinkedIn message, they'll email before they'll phone. But make sure make sure you're super easy to get in touch with, and then talk to the world. Leverage your videos and things like that. I guess my other point is just to focus. If you're looking at going internationally, figure out which are the lowest hanging fruits. Don't spread yourself thin. Just focus on your markets. And what I would say as well is certainly from our point of view, a website and your social media, your online profile, your online presence, website, your landing pages, your social media presence, bring them right into this marketing. Bring them right into the sales and marketing teams. We're going to a trade show. Right. Next question is, what happens if I go to a trade show to my website and on social media? We're launching a new product. Then what effect does that have on my website and my social media? We have a new hire. What do I do with that? I need to react to my digital presence. My digital presence has to be absolutely up to date for them. Okay, so here's a couple of things that we could say about your sales and marketing, and where some of those people, some of those things that you can do. If you've got a top of the funnel to nurture, if you've got a hot lead to nurture, what are the kind of action things that you could do? Trade show takeaways. There's a before, a during, and an after. Hello, Ava. You got a question?
No, sorry. I was just going to highlight that we do have a question in. So
Okay,
just when you're done, we've got a question.
Okay, sorry, I don't see the question. I'm sharing my screen. Thank you for pointing it out. So trade show takeaways before, during, and after. Just as a reminder of some of the biggest points about it. I have not put a timeline in there, but remember that's 10 weeks before, during, and post the event. There's tons of stuff on our website as well. If you go to ibt.onl, ONL stands for online, ibt.onl, there in the resource sections, lots of free downloadable stuff you can download about this. And yeah, we're here to help any questions. The few remaining minutes. What is the question, Eva?
Okay, so the question is the .com URL still the gold standard regardless of the country, or should other TLDs be procured?
Top level domain names are along a big subject, and it really depends. Also, it depends what you're doing. It depends on your industry. And depends on the market. I'm sorry to give such a vague answer. I'll give you an example. In Canada, okay, the Canadians are very, very, very close, obviously, to their U.S. market, and they know that U.S. companies come into Canada and use the dot. Oh, I've misspelled something. Error to help. Sorry about that typo. Anyway, the Canadians all know that that the Americans are coming into Canada. They don't have a Canadian website most of the time, and they're just selling things on the .com. Most Canadians accept that and will even search and be happy to search on .coms. If it's a financial institution, they won't. I mean, the vast majority, over 70%, will not interact with a financial institution if it's not with a .ca. If you look at e-commerce on B2C e-commerce, more than 40% of Canadians typically, and these are big numbers I'm giving you, but ballpark figures, about 40%, more than 1/3 of Canadians do not interact with B2C if it's not a .ca, although they're searching for the .coms. They know the .com. So it really depends on how it is. What I would say is, someone like Apple, I think they have like 196 top level domains for Apple. And that's just Apple. That's not like, iWatches and iPhone, different ones. So there's a lot of different ones. Prioritize, I think, is the key. Figure out and don't give your URLs to other companies or other institutions or other people, but prioritize. I think it's important to own your most important URLs. How about that? Ava?
Yeah.
Kitchen?
Yeah, I would like to add that we encourage companies to, as Susanna just said, own your digital real estate. So even if when we meet a company and assess what target markets they're interested in, we say, do you own the .mx of your, for your brand? Do you own the .ca, the .fr, etc.? Because you might one day want to expand or go further into that market. So that's your digital real estate, and they don't cost much. They can sometimes cost $25, dollars, etc. So own the digital real estate, so that somebody else doesn't have that in your brand. I was going to add, because some companies are getting ready for the trade winds 2025, and so I just wanted to ask Susanna, as a follow-up to that, what about the Brazil market, for example? If a company was interested in Brazil, would you recommend buying the TLD for Brazil?
If you could, a lot of countries, and this is a growing trend, by the way, a lot of countries restrict purchase of top level domain names to people who have a Brazilian business, a Brazilian telephone number, a Brazilian address. Same in Japan, Canada, lots and lots of markets. In fact, a growing number of markets do that. So if you are desperate to get a Brazilian website, and first of all, I think it's .com.br is the main one that they use or .co.br in Brazil is the one they use, they like the most. If you can't, then a way of getting around that is doing a subdomain. It's not the best, but that's better than just having a .com US website, which is going to be very hard to rank organically with. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is good. It goes back to our conversation that just as it's not it's not one Google, it's 150 plus Googles. So your .com is not going to be ranking organically in Brazil. Just, I'm sure everyone knows this, but big picture, the .com website does not exist in China. It is not a digital
No.
asset that exists in France or in Japan, etc. So it's just not going to be turning up for anyone outside of America.
Yeah. So one thing that's useful about Latin America, because you mentioned trade winds, if people are looking at Latin America, there's quite a good top level domain for the region. So very few places have that, but .lat. So you could put, for example, ibt.lat or trade.gov.lat for that, and that's actually works, fairly well for this for that whole region. And there's a couple of other regions that where that works as well. Sometimes for the Arabic ones, there's some Arabic ones as well that work for those regions.
Yeah, and just last point on this domain names. The Middle East is actually somewhere that we're seeing they care enormously about domain.
Yeah.
They care enormously about whether you have the right like whether your business, whether your website is appropriate for their market. This includes color, this includes language, and if you are not doing business with them.
No. Yeah, that's very true. But we're really here also to talk about trade shows, and if there's any other and there's Christine. If Christine, you're also in the trade show business. So if you are looking at building booths and having dedicated booths, Christine is your person. You're on mute, by the way, Christine.
So I was going to mention that we're working with the US Commercial Service to do a United States pavilion in Australia in February 25. So that was one of the reasons I was interested in this, because we have a group of US companies going, and we don't have any digital presence about it at all.
Oh.
Although the show does, but anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. So
okay, well, see if we can help you on that, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Good. We've sort of run out of time. As I said, you will all be getting an email in with a recording and as well as an SEO report on your company. And then give us a call if there's anything else we can do to help. And Christine, I'll reach out to you about the Australians. And I think that Flextroll, I think we're going to also look at for Flextroll and there and see what Richard had to say about that. So don't hesitate to get in touch, as Ava said. Thank you all for your time. We realize, especially this time of year, is busy. So thank you all very much for your time. Very busy.
Appreciate your expertise and partnership with the Commercial Service. Thanks to everyone for joining. Feel free to reach out to me as well if you have any questions or if we can be of assistance in the new year.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.